me 40% of the children are not the man's child. 40%. He said 40%.
Somebody call
and
Maury.
It's usually
make DNA testing
it's
mandatory.
It's two scenarios. It's where the woman, the person's getting a DNA test because the woman claims that is their child. Turns out it's not. The other one is where the parent is on a deathbed and makes a confession, or they need a liver transplant, blood transfusion, and the blood type. There's no way that can actually be the father.
A guy goes to Afghanistan for 13 months, and his wife gets pregnant and has a new son. He says that's not possible, so he files for divorce. While he's away, open and shut, right? He's not going to have to pay child support. It's all going to be fine, right?
Not true. There's this doctrine called the Lord Mansfield Doctrine, and it's based on Old English common law. And what that doctrine said essentially is that unless the man was away on the high seas or otherwise his equipment didn't work, he is presumed to be the father of every child that his wife has while he's married to her. But now there's been somewhat of a perverted twist to the thing by the states that support the marital presumption of paternity. It doesn't matter whether you're in the country, out of the country. You found out she had multiple boyfriends. You said, I'm not touching her with a 10-foot pole. The judge says, according to the law, you are responsible for any children she has while you're still married to her, so ordered.
Are you for mandatory DNA testing at birth?
I am absolutely on record as saying that if we want to prevent the problem of having men challenge paternity later down the road, then let's apply a proactive solution. Automatic DNA testing at birth would work to help two things. One, we would assure that the right parents were named on the birth certificate. Two, it would stop paternity fraud and take the profit out of paternity fraud.
But so many women's groups say this wouldn't be fair. You're acting like you don't trust the mother. Why do you think they say that?
It's a red herring. It takes away from the focus of, well, who's the one person who has all of the information about potential fathers or the paternity candidates? It is the child's mother. And currently, in most places, she has no duty to disclose that, well, wait a minute. Well, my husband's not really my child's father. My boyfriend is. Like, well, wait, lady. But you're married. You forgot that you were married? No. But thanks to no-fault divorce laws, she can get the house, the property, alimony, and child support, and then move the boyfriend into the house.
And people, the system doesn't make it easy. So speaking of the system, what are you doing, or what have you done to help change some of these laws that are so unfair to men?
Well, it's actually unfair to men, women, and children.
I ride for and I advocate for child support reform is because of the injustices that I see as the law is applied in real life.
What are some of the injustices you see?
So, like, I have a client that's the one that I've been really talking about a lot lately. So I have a client, one of my client's cases, he is currently still paying child support or has an obligation to pay back child support for a child that has been determined that is not his by DNA evidence. And we had our day in court. We lost because we did not file our suit timely. That's the only reason why it was thrown out, because we did not file our suit before the expiration of the statute of limitation. So for herefore and forevermore, he will be on the hook for paying over $40,000 in back child.
Hell no.
That's Christopher Crump.
Christopher Crump. So
yeah, this is a wild case to me because this guy, they proved that he was not the father, and then the DNA test results got lost.
Mm-hmm.
Family, listen to what I'm saying. The state claims that they lost the DNA results. They lost the results where they determined paternity. And then they said that he waited too long to prove that he wasn't the father.
Yeah. There's a 4-year statute of limitation. Yeah. That he has to follow.
So nothing you can do?
There's absolutely nothing that can be done.
There are massive federal programs that were instituted in the late 1970s that pay states trillions of dollars to tear families apart. like in Texas, we get 66 cents on the dollar put into the Texas Treasury for every dollar of child support that's paid. So the state is now highly incentivized to issue the maximum amount of child support. That's why almost all divorces got 50-50 prior to the 1980s. And there was this skyrocketing of divorces where one parent loses custody. And that was to maximize Title IV-D reimbursements to the states. In Texas, it's $500 million to the Texas budget.
If the state is profiting off of child support?
Correct. And in most states, the Judicial Retirement Fund is funded from this money. So the more child support that's issued from the family courts, the larger the judicial retirement. It's a massive program. It's the size of the largest defense programs. So the incentives are absolutely huge.
To get people to pay child support?
Correct.
Even married people, to get them to break up and then have to pay each other child support?
Absolutely, yeah. So because you would think the best child support would just be 50-50 custody and let people raise their kids. The best child support is to raise your own kid. That's the best child support. But they don't do that. Most states actually have laws prohibiting the courts from doing that. Texas has a family code in which it's assumed to be in the child's best interest that one parent get 24% of the time. And the reason 24% was chosen precisely is it maximizes Title IV-D reimbursement to the state at 24%. Okay?
How's the maximization function? How does it come out at 24%?
So it has to do with how the state calculates child support. So Texas has one of the worst child support systems in the state. It doesn't take into account the income of both parents, and it doesn't take into account the amount of time you spend with the child. So there are fathers out there with 49% of the time that are paying maximal child support still.
Wow.
But again, that maximizes the reimbursement to the state. I have a friend of mine, him and his wife came to an agreement to do 50-50 parenting, no child support, because he watches the kids a lot while she travels for her work. And so it all worked out, and they decided it's just better to do it this way. The state of Texas sent an attorney to argue in the case that they should not be allowed to do 50-50 custody.
I read a story about some celebrity guy who had to pay massive child support, and then he and the wife both went to the court together as friends and said, hey, he's no longer working and doesn't have this money anymore, so we both agree it should be lower, and the court said no.
They won't do it.
Because they get a cut.
They get a huge kickback, yeah.